Hello and welcome back once again to the HR Social Hour Half Hour Podcast. This is episode 32. John and Wendy talk to Chris Orozco. I'm your host, John.
And I'm Wendy. How are you tonight, John?
I am very well. I'm excited about tonight's guest.
Yes.
Wanted to take a minute, though. We had spoken briefly prior to Gemma's episode about the international contingent and listener base, and I'm excited to say it's continuing to expand, and wanted to take a couple minutes just to recognize countries, because we can't figure out quite who the listeners are unless you reach out to us, which we hope you'll do. But Wendy, I'm hoping you can talk a little bit about the list of new countries that are on the board and where we are.
Yeah, it's amazing how quickly that list keeps growing. Quite honestly, I get excited about it. Love seeing it grow. Love getting those texts from you about where we are today. But we want to really welcome our listeners in Costa Rica, the Kingdom of Lesotho, Antigua and Barbuda, Colombia, and Iceland, which is very cool. I mean, it's not even like a specific area of the world that we're hitting. It's all over. So that's just phenomenal to me. So I believe that when we did that, I think that takes us up to 41 countries that we're heard in.
I think that's right. It's exciting. We've actually started a map. Wendy found a great tool online that we're able to use to show people where the listeners are and where they've been, where the shows have been downloaded. And we can't thank the international listeners again enough. You all are amazing. We are so glad that you're finding something in our show that is helpful to you. And I will throw it out again. If you are interested in ever taking part in the show, contact us, or we'll do the contact information at the end. But please reach out to us and let us know you're listening and that you'd like to take part, because we would love to talk to you.
Definitely. Please let us know.
Well, enough about the international listeners, because they'll get recognized again down the road, I'm sure. I have to say, Wendy, I think the guest we have tonight, I told you before we started recording, I think that this is the first person that I've talked to offline about how they got into this. So I'm looking forward to actually put it to tape, but I was really great just realizing, I think this is the first person I've really had that conversation with. So without further ado, Wendy, I'll let you make the introduction and we'll get started.
Sure. So excited to welcome Chris to our show tonight. Second shortest bio, I'm pretty sure. And so, I'm going to put the challenge out to our other future guests that, short and succinct. That's what we're looking for. So shorter the better. Chris is a proud daddy, a nerdy guy on a mission to help redefine HR and empower people to become leaders through service to others. Chris, welcome to the show tonight. And our first question, as always, is what's in your glass?
Yes, ma'am. I have in front of me ice cold Sierra Nevada Summerfest, and I got to tell you guys, it is fantastic.
Yum.
I might pour another one before we're done. It is good.
We don't have a 2-drink minimum at the social hour, but we'll accept that. That is no problem at all. No problem at all.
Thank you guys so much for having me. Hello to everybody out there listening. Wendy and John, I was telling them a little bit before we started, congratulations, you guys, on the international growth. Everything that you guys are doing with this podcast, with the chat, I really admire it, respect it, to learn from you guys. I love seeing good people doing good things, and so hats off to you guys, honestly.
Thank you, Chris. And
Thank
checks
you,
in the
Chris.
mail. Checks in the mail.
Where's my sponsorship? Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
I alluded to this a little bit, Chris, that we've had a chance to talk about your background, but for the listeners, how exactly did you get started in human resources?
Back in 2006, with the company that I still work with, I've been there this year is 19 years. The HR manager position opened up, and at that time I was the executive assistant to the general manager, to the chief executive, and so the position opened up. They were doing a search for, and at that time there was a senior HR official as the head of HR, and this position would report to that individual. And so they were coming up with names, looking at folks that could do this job, recruit some folks. And he and I went to lunch to meet with somebody at a local cafe one day, and we were leaving and getting in he had a big F-250 truck. And I remember clearly like it was yesterday, just climbing in his truck in the passenger seat, and he's climbing in too. And he says, "Hey, Another name came up for the HR manager job, and I get my little notepad out because I always had take notes wherever I went with them, and I said, oh, well, I'm real eager. I said, okay, who is it? I'll write the name down and get in touch with him. And he says, you. And I was just flabbergasted, and I started stuttering and got real nervous in the truck. I was like, whoa, what do you mean, me? I don't know anything about HR, and he said, I think you could do it, man. And he's like, let's sit down tomorrow and talk a little bit about it. And he was so gracious, and he's still an incredible mentor for me. And he sat down with me and just, you care about people. You want to see people treated right here. You have it down for what an HR person should be. You'll learn all the labor laws and all that stuff. You can get all that stuff down. He said, but you really care about people, and that's what we need over there. And I said, well, that's really interesting. So I applied for it. I did not get the job the first time, but eventually it worked out where I was offered the position. Gosh, was it 12 years later? It was November of 2006 almost. So I'm still there.
That is awesome. I love those stories. Rags to riches or something like that. Rags to HR, admin to HR.
Rags to... it was good, and I'm still learning, and I can't say, that when I started, I knew what HR was. I did not, but I think that was a good thing that I went in without any preconceived notions of what HR should be.
Sure.
And just with an open mind of, well, what if we tried this or tried this? And I think that was an advantage too, but there's definitely been a lot of learning in the last 12 years and certainly still learning to this day. But it's been an incredible journey, and it's such a rewarding field for people to get into. I encourage anybody that's listening that's either in the field or maybe thinking about joining the field, you won't regret it. It really is purposeful work.
I think it's great that you worked for someone who not only could see that in you, but took the time to promote you and encourage you to do something like that. A lot of times we hear about supervisors or managers that hang on to good people jealously and don't want to share the wealth. So kudos to your boss if he's still there. If
yes,
not,
yeah. Hopefully he'll be listening.
So, Chris, you've grown up in your organization, moved into HR.
Yeah.
So this kind of just goes along. What advice would you give to someone that might be interested in or is presented a similar opportunity like you were to move into an HR role?
Go for it. Be relentless about it. Absolutely. And even if I was scared, honest to God, I was terrified, especially not really knowing the job. But, oftentimes fear is just an illusion. Remember the purpose of why you're doing it. So that's what I would encourage anybody that's going into a job that's new. Go for it. But I would throw in there, understand why you're doing it. It's easy to say, hey, I'm going to make more money and I get to do this and do that and everything sounds great to be a boss and sit in a chair and all this stuff. But there's a lot of responsibility that goes along with these jobs. I remember back, I was real young. I was like 19, and another figure that was a really impactful person for me, her name was Pat. She was our old CFO. I was spouting off one day, young, immature Chris, just saying, hey, one day I'm going to be a boss and I'm going to sit in an office and we're going to do this and do all this good stuff and everybody's going to do what I say. And she said, be careful what you wish for, because I do think that you're going to be in a leadership position one day and, you don't quite understand what you're going to have to be doing. There's a lot of it's almost like the great power comes great responsibility, Uncle Ben chat that he gives with Spider-Man. And at the time I didn't really understand what she meant. She's, just be careful what you wish for, and because it's much more different than you think. So that's a big thing that I would encourage anybody that's getting into HR or any field, regardless of the nature of the field, is just remember why you're doing it. And if you're doing it for the right reasons, I've seen that everything has a way to fall into place, especially if you're really a good person and want to do good work on behalf of others. I think not to say there's not going to be stumbles and challenges, and certainly I stumble all the time still, but everything does have a way of falling into place when you remember why you're doing something and doing it for good reasons.
That is true.
Chris, your blog's titled Create, Life and Leadership by Design. How did you come up with that title, and what's the response been to the blog?
It's been good. I'm really grateful for the folks that take time to read that stuff. That I was, again, really nervous about launching that because by nature I'm a pretty private person, and I hadn't been really public with a Twitter or Instagram or anything like that where I was kind of putting myself out there, to the public, and especially writing something. And once you put it out there, it kind of belongs to the world, and that's kind of a scary thing. But when I was coming up with the blog, I knew I didn't want HR to be in the title just because I'm not a big fan of the human resources moniker just in general. I don't like the resources part. I really don't think that that's what it's going to be called in the future. No different like we went from personnel to HR to I'm not sure what it's going to be called in the future, but I wanted to be built for the future. So I knew I didn't want HR in the title, and I knew I wanted it to be something that was bigger than me. So I didn't want my name in it really. And something that just resonated with me for a while was just the concept of create and just everything that goes along with that. I just love the potential that really goes along with that term, creating success, creating opportunity, creating meaning. I mean, it's so open-ended and there's so much potential there. So, and I wanted the blog to be about just as much about as HR as it is about leadership, because I think that they have to go hand in hand if we're going to be doing good HR. And so I think a great employee experience kind of happens at that intersection of great leadership and great HR. So create just felt right. And the life and leadership by design is just that's the tagline, basically about being intentional about what you're doing when you're creating something. And I just loved reading stories about people that created something that just was everlasting and then kept going and going. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this, I mean, I really just love how you guys started this podcast and it's taking off and you believe in it and you're creating something really good that helps others. I just love, so that's where Create came from.
You sound like you've been like just absorbing everything Jennifer McClure is putting out right now. You've got your brand down, Chris. I love it.
She's fantastic too, by the way.
Yeah, definitely. But we're big fans. You're succinct, got everything. You've planned it out, and I'm very impressed. I feel like sometimes I'm throwing stuff up and seeing what sticks to the walls.
Here, absolutely. Well, and I get like not everybody loves the stuff that I write. I admit like that sometimes that might hurt. It's like I want everybody to like the content that I'm putting out there. But going into that, I understood that it's, not everybody's going to dig everything that I put out. But, as content creators, really the only thing that you can do is believe in your work, right? And again, that goes back to remembering why you're doing it. So everything that I've written, I've really believed in. I don't blog too often. I think I've published maybe 8 or 10 blogs. I don't do it too frequently. But generally when I feel passionate about something, and so really all you can do when you're creating content is believe in your vision, and really that's all you should do. And so It's been an interesting journey. The SHRM blogger thing, joining with you guys on the team for SHRM, I was blown away when I got that email invite. I couldn't believe it because I really hadn't been blogging that long, but it really made me feel good that believe that I was doing this for the right reasons. I want to help people out there, as simple as that sounds, but that's it. And so, I just want to keep doing that. And so you guys will probably see some changes with the Create stuff. I've been trying to play the long game on this with the Create brand, and you'll see the next evolutionary step of that probably in the next couple months of where I'm going to head with the Create stuff.
Where do you envision taking your career, your writing in the next 5 years?
I want to do more of it, definitely. I love what I'm doing. I love the company that I've been with. Again, I've been with them since I was 18 years old. But the possibility that I could maybe help people on a larger scale is something I don't know how to say no to. I'd like to continue writing. I've done a few magazine articles now, which I just sent one off to going to be published in the fall. And this is stuff that I never would have thought I would be doing, but I'd love to do more of it and add my voice out there. We see all this stuff about how work is changing. There's still companies out there where people are suffering at their work and how they're treated and everything. And if I can be a small part of that to help solve that and make work a better place, then count me in along with you guys and everybody else that's out there and passionate about doing that. So I'd love to do more writing. I'll be speaking at a conference in November in Las Vegas. So I'd love to do more of that. The consulting industry, the HR consulting industry is really, really interesting to me. That's appealing to me. So that might have something to do with what I was mentioning about the next evolutionary step of the Create brand. That might have something to do with it too in the next couple months. But basically, as many lives as I can help touch and be a part of this larger conversation with everybody that's out there doing this work every day. And just really, I wrote a blog last week and published it. And I mentioned that, in my opinion, the true purpose of HR is improving quality of life, and not just inside work, but also outside as well. As much as I can do of that for a lot of folks, then sign me up. That's definitely interesting to me. And we'll see what happens, but I'm going to work to be intentional about designing something really cool. I just want a platform that will help reach as many people as possible.
Well, Chris, now it is time for everyone's favorite part of our show, the half-hour question connection. And our first question is, do you remember how you first connected with us?
I think I connected with you guys pretty early on. I started my Twitter 2016. I don't remember exactly when, but I think I connected with you guys pretty early on. And I liked, part of my apprehension about it was, when I launched it, I thought, well, I'm just going to write a bunch of professional stuff and share professional articles. And then I thought, man, I wasn't having fun. I was like, this is really boring. I'm not enjoying, I'm not enjoying this at all. And if I'm not enjoying it, there's really no reason to keep doing this. The purpose is not there for me. But I saw folks like you guys, and I saw Wendy, and I thought it was fun how you would talk about wine and not really be afraid to just show who you were. And I thought, this is great. I love her. And then John is my brother in all things geeky, and he's not afraid to talk about it. And he's got his podcast, Star Joe's. Can I throw a shout out there for Star Joe's?
Absolutely.
Too.
Of course.
And I just thought, this is good. People should be themselves in here, because I thought, if I publish a blog and they look at my Twitter profile, I'm talking about video games, and I'm a 37-year-old man, and I got collectibles in my office, and is this real? Am I going to be taken seriously? But I thought, that feels right to me, that authenticity to put myself out there like that. I'm pretty sure I connected with you two pretty early on when I joined Twitter. I'm really grateful to have gotten to know you guys and met you guys in real life back in Chicago.
That was awesome. It was great to hang out with you.
Good. The mixers were fantastic.
Yes.
Chris, how has networking helped you in your career, and what's been really effective for you when it comes to networking?
I'm pretty much an introvert. Networking to me does not come naturally. I have to really get in the zone and prep myself for it. And after big networking events, I tend to find myself exhausted. So really just focus on connecting with people. Don't be afraid, for me personally, don't be embarrassed. Don't be shy. There's really going to be no growth if you just keep to yourself. And so the best advice I can give to anybody is, when you walk into a room, just, let your guard down, be yourself, and everything will work out. And it's worked out really well for me. The social media stuff has been fantastic. I know, so I'm on Twitter and Instagram, and I probably haven't been too active on Twitter lately as much as I had been before, but the connections that you can make on there, you really get to feel like you know people. Like when I went to Chicago and I saw you guys and others that I talked with over Twitter, it was like I had already known you guys for a long time, and to be able to have that feeling just over digital interactions is really an incredible thing. And that goes back to, again, that authenticity that I love, connecting with people that show who they are. They talk about their families, they talk about their interests, all this good stuff. And then they throw in some HR stuff there and leadership stuff too. But I found that the people I've had the strongest connection with are the folks that, aren't afraid to talk about their own lives and their families and their interests and stuff. And I always find that interesting. So online networking has been incredible. It's opened up a lot of possibility for me. And this is coming from someone, like I said before, that was really apprehensive about doing that kind of stuff. But get over those blocks. So I encourage anybody, if you're apprehensive about networking, social media, get over those roadblocks, remember your purpose and get out there and meet people, because, it's only good can come from it.
That is true. That is true. Who do you read and follow for HR insights?
There's a lot. We mentioned Jennifer McClure. I love her stuff. Eric Barker, I don't know if you guys know him. He wrote the book Barking Up the Wrong Tree. That was a really good book. Daniel Pink, I like his stuff on Twitter. But reading everybody's blogs, I don't want to ever get too lost in just following, the famous people that already have their names out there that they're established. I really, anytime that I get a chance to go online and look at blogs, I try to share as much as I can if I see something and promote that and retweet it or however you share it on whichever medium it is. Because some of the best insights I've read are from people just like us, and so whatever we can do to help get each other's voice out there and amplify that, I think, the more the better. There's so many great – the Sherm Blogger team, if you look at them, a lot of great folks. I didn't get to meet every single one of on the team, but it was awesome just seeing, you know, that they're good people and they're doing this for the right reasons and they're getting recognized and be given a platform to continue to get their voice out there. And I just think that's incredible.
Chris, you talked a little bit about with the blog and some things you're trying to do as far as giving back. Can you talk a little bit more about how you enjoy giving back to the HR community, maybe in other ways?
I've had a really good opportunity for myself now to mentor others, you know, and so just passing what you've learned along to others and helping them grow, I think is one of the best ways that we can give back. So I have a coworker and she came up to see me a couple of weeks ago and she said, hey, I have my first speaking gig at a conference and I know you've done a couple of them already. Can you give me some tips? And first, I mean, I was so honored that she thought of me to come see me and ask these things. And then second, I thought, you know, I'm going to give her everything that I can because I know her and she is just such an incredibly genuine person that really believes in her work and really cares about, you know, her team that she's leading and overseeing, the department that she has. And so, you know, some tips, you know, pass along that. But anytime, and I mentioned that in the blog that I just published, that, you know, anytime you have a chance to mentor something and knowledge is too valuable to keep to yourself, right? And so any chance that you have through a mentorship program, we have different mentorship programs at work. Even if somebody connects, you know, offline and wants to chat or, you know, you start that dialogue and get a chance to talk to them, share some insights if they need help, anything like that, don't pass those ideas or those opportunities up because you'll grow too, because you're going to learn. Even if your intent is to help teach somebody something, you're going to get something out of it too.
Chris, what's your favorite movie?
That would be the one and only Ghostbusters. I am talking about the original 1984 classic. I cannot think of a more perfect movie than that movie. It is just fantastic. I love it.
It's a good one.
It is. It's amazing. And then the Star Wars. I love the Star Wars movies, the saga there. But Ghostbusters is just, I don't know how those guys did it. Hats off to those guys.
How about your favorite musician or band?
My musical tastes have changed a little bit as I've gotten older. I used to really love the band Seven Dust. I don't know if you guys have heard of them. They're a rock band. But I haven't really listened to them too much. But here's a fun fact. I don't know how fun it is, but it's a fact. But in my office, and it's a well-known that I love video games. I'm a gamer, right? At 37 years old, I'm still getting it done when I have a chance to fire up the PS4 or the Xbox One or anything like that. And I love video game soundtracks. And I will listen to, I don't know if you got, like Mega Man is my favorite video game series of just like in the history of everything. I'm talking like it's an old like 80s from the NES system that they had. And so I will listen to pretty much constantly in my office old video game soundtracks. And so I can't tell you who the composers are behind those tracks, but they put me in such a good place because they jog good memories and stuff. And, you know, sometimes HR work can maybe get a little bit stressful here and there or whatever you're dealing with. So I always find that people walk in and they hear this and they're like, what the hell are you listening to? What is this? So, yeah, I really dig the video game soundtracks nowadays.
Oh, my gosh.
That nerdy guy thing in my bio is for real.
That's like nerdy at a new level.
It's a new level.
Listening to this, and you know, and I am not a gamer at all.
Yeah.
My husband bought, well, it's a new Nintendo DS that you can plug in, and it's got all the games built into it.
Right.
And he made me play the Tesco football game.
Yeah, you said he made me. He forced me to play this game.
Well, I lost like 70-0.
Really? Well, practice. You know, practice makes perfect. Some games are a little bit harder than others, I think.
Well, they are. But the thing is that I'm trying to get my brain around right here is that you're talking about listening to the soundtracks. And so I'm thinking, you know, from the 80s, Donkey Kong and Mario. And
absolutely. Yeah, those 8-bit chip tunes. I encourage everyone here, if you want to get a feel for when you walk into my office, go like onto YouTube or something and just Google or search for Mega Man soundtrack. And you will get a feel of what you hear when you walk into my office.
I'm going to link to it. Chris, what's your favorite TV show?
I don't know if I have a favorite show now. I watch the news a lot, which I promised myself growing up because my dad did the same thing and I hated watching the news all the time. I would never do that, and I've become him. I have it up my TV's on MSNBC a lot, but I don't have a real show that I like now, but I don't know if you guys remember the show Chuck. Did you guys ever watch that? Zachary Levi was. Oh my God, I felt like I was friends with him. Yeah, when it went off the air, I was devastated. It was just and then Married with Children. I don't know if you guys remember that, but that's another. Those two shows are in some serious competition for my favorite of all time. But I don't know that I have a real favorite one. Well, one recently was I don't know if you guys saw it, was Vice Principals on HBO. Danny McBride was on it. I don't know if you guys caught that. If you have HBO, check it out. It's kind of dark. It's like a black comedy, I guess. It's not. There's some dark humor in it, but check it out. By the end of it,
Danny McBride.
Danny McBride. I looked back when it ended and I thought, what the hell did I just watch? Because it's a 12 episode series. But yeah, check that one out. That was pretty good for the most part.
Well, I would have to say, as I look over what we've been talking about, we just did finish Chuck again in our house. We've been watching.
Really?
Yeah, it was on. I think it's on Amazon Prime right now. So we watched it there. I see more Married with Children when I travel than should be humanly possible. Because it seems like it's on at like 5:30 in the morning at every at TBS or somebody shows it at like 5:30, 6:30. Beyond that, we share the geeky comic book stuff that we're not going to get into tonight. When you're not watching Ghostbusters or Chuck or listening to music, what else do you like to do outside of work?
So my son, I have a little boy for everybody listening out there. He's 5 years old, Matthew. This age, honestly, I cannot get enough of him. It is his little personality. He just started kindergarten last week. Any time that I get to spend with him and just see, and just the stuff that he says, I don't know where it comes from. And sometimes I wonder where he heard it from. And God bless him, he's a Star Wars fan too. So I've been trying to raise him right in that respect. So he always wants to watch. He's more into the Clone Wars now, the series, and which is coming back. Throw a shout out for that series coming back. But anytime I get to see what he's up to, and he hopefully maybe he's going to be a little creator too, because he sees all these kids on YouTube that have their little toy shows. That's all he watches, and he doesn't even watch, like, if he gets time to watch something, he doesn't want to watch like Nickelodeon or Disney or anything anymore. He wants to watch these kids that are doing their shows, and some of them are actually pretty entertaining. The parents do a good job putting it together and all this stuff. So he wants to do his own thing now. So we've been talking about how that would work. So if you see a Matthew Toy Show come out here in the future, give it a watch. I'll throw a shout out. But yeah, I love spending time with him. But I love writing. I've always loved writing. Yeah, it's just stuff like that. Free time, especially when you have a little one. You guys are parents. It seems like free time doesn't come in abundance anymore. Really try to make the most of it when I get it.
Definitely. Chris, final question.
Yeah.
If you weren't practicing HR, what do you think you'd be doing?
I saw this question earlier, and I really tried to think about it, and I don't know why, but I like performing. As shy as I have been, I do like performing. In high school, was in a play, was The Importance of Being Earnest, and from then I thought I really enjoy this because people seem like they're enjoying it and bringing a smile to people's faces. Why not? So maybe something in the creative space. Even now, I've thought if I had free time, we have a local, like it's called the Riverfront Playhouse. I've even thought about maybe auditioning and doing like a small part just to be part of that. But maybe something like that. I'm not saying I would be a big time movie star if I wasn't doing HR, because if that could be happening, I would be doing that, and making 20 million a picture. So I don't know, maybe something like that, but something definitely creatively. I would love to do something like that.
Cool.
Well, Chris, we're glad that you're not necessarily. You're doing stuff creative, but thankfully in the HR world and not outside of it. Because then we wouldn't know you more than likely, and I'm better for knowing you, and I really appreciate the fact that you came on. I know this is your first time doing a podcast.
It was.
Great conversation. And for those of our listeners that don't know you, aren't following you right now, they're going to want to run out and sign up as soon as the show's over. What's the best way for them to reach you out there?
Follow along on Twitter. It's Chris Orozco 72. And it's the same on Instagram, Chris Orozco 72, and you can see all my nerdy pictures and all that good stuff on there. But likewise to you guys, I really have a huge amount of respect for what you guys have created here, and keep going, you guys. I love seeing it, and it's just going to make people's lives better. So hats off to you. I'm really grateful for the opportunity you guys invited me on, and then for your friendship most of all, you guys.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Put that in the show notes.
Yes.
Wendy, how about you? What's the best way for our listeners to reach you?
Sure. Best way to reach me is always on Twitter. I am Wendell93. Connect with just about everybody there. You're welcome to reach out to me on LinkedIn. If you could drop a line, let me know how you found us, or on my blog, mydailyjourney.com. Please spell daily correctly with D as in dog, AILEY. And also, the fourth Sunday of each month, you'll find me on Twitter at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, following the HR Social Hour Twitter chat. How about you, John?
You can always find me on Twitter. That's at John, Jon_Thurmond, THURMOND. Happy to connect on LinkedIn. If you would personalize the invitation, I appreciate it. If you have a question or comment about the show or monthly chat, send us an email to hrsocialhourpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook if you search the HR Social Hour. You'll find the show at hrsocialhourpodcast.podbean.com. We're on iTunes, Podbean, Podchaser, hrpodcasters.com, Google Play, TuneIn, and Spotify. And as always, if you like what you hear, rate and review on whatever platform you use, because it helps build the community and give us a bit more visibility out there. So again, Chris, thanks again for being with us tonight for the HR Social Hour Half Hour Podcast. I'm John.
And I'm Wendy. And as always, be sure to connect,
give back, and network.
Network.
Take care, everyone.
We'll see you soon.